The Smooth 98.1, your love music, love life station. It's a feel good Friday morning, 33 minutes past 6 a.m. You're tuned in to the Smooth Breakfast. Yours truly is Ayokunmi. And it's that time to take a walk into the world of business and bring you some latest information from that space. It's a Friday, so we love to add a bit of tech, sprinkle a bit of that magic into the mix. And today isn't going to be any different. Welcome along to the journey with us. This morning, we're going to be having a conversation about finance, specifically the access to finance and the Nigerian perspective. Now, this is a research report that was done by Intelpoint and very interesting read. If you haven't seen it yet, you definitely should be getting on it. But I'm actually very, very privileged this morning to have someone very, very special as well joining me to take a look at that report and make some sense of it. So please do join me in welcoming my guest this morning in person of Yinka Awosanya. He is the research lead at Intelpoint. Good morning to you, Yinka. Great to have you on the show.
Hi, good morning. It's good to be here.
Absolute pleasure to have you talk about this. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of the conversation, you out there can join us this morning by sending your messages in on WhatsApp on 0809 444 0981 0809 444 0981. That is the WhatsApp number. We're also streaming on YouTube. You can catch the live stream there at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Okay, you got right off the bat. I've been very curious since I saw this the report in question. Can you explain the process of gathering the data that you used to put the whole report together?
Okay, so we released a similar report in 2023, and then that one was widely, so it was across the country that we did a survey. And then so last year, late last year, just like, okay, it's been 2 years, so let's try
Okay.
and get the feel of the current status of the industry. So, okay, we just started a survey, and then the survey all 36 states of the country, including the FCT, to make sure that uh, 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 the respondents are distributed across the country. So that is what we
Okay.
did, and then we do both cities as well as the rural area. And then in cases whereby people don't understand English, so the survey administration will interpret the survey questionnaires, questions to them in the local language that they understand, just to make sure that we get the view of everybody involved in this space, because it's not just to say we're interviewing people that are learning or that can read or write in code,
Hmm.
but then everybody, to make sure that we capture everybody. Yeah, so that's what basically did, to make sure that we bring everybody into the fold of the report.
Okay, interesting stuff there. Now, talking about the heart of the report, which deals with, getting access to finance. I mean, by Nigerians in general. Now, based on the findings in the report, is access to finance in Nigeria improving in the rural areas specifically?
Okay, so there's been no major improvements considering what we did in 2020 to 2023 and what we did between December last year and March this year. It's still basically the same, because you still have bulk of the commercial banks concentrated in cities and towns, while leaving the villages and remote areas
Hmm.
to the likes of POS agents, which is the agency banking guys, as well as the PSB, which don't have that much, and that's payment service bank, which don't have that much uh, 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 concentration in the local in the rural area. So it's basically you have the banks for the town and cities, and you have the
Okay.
POS agents and areas bank guys in the rural area. So for the rural guys, it's still basically the same thing. Their point of call is still access to access financial services. Say you want to withdraw or make payment, is still through the PS guys, and that's the same thing with what happened. What we discovered in 2023. So it's basically still the same feel. These guys still don't have what they need to access financial service, and then using the PS guys for them it's a little bit more expensive than doing that for, I mean, doing that through a commercial bank. So it's basically the same dynamic as with 2023.
Hmm. You would think that with all the drive that has been going on, at least within the finance sector, to make sure that the unbanked are banked, you would think that there would have been a significant improvement in those numbers. But all that being said, how do you think technology can actually improve the access to finance in Nigeria?
Okay, so technology, yes, technology has a role to play, but then first we need to make sure that we do the groundwork for technology to really play the role we want it to play. Okay, take the BVN for instance. So the BVN is like the unique identifier for every bank, every banking currency in Nigeria. Everybody that is in the banking system in Nigeria. So the BVN is like the unique identifier, and to get before you can, I mean, what's it called? If you have a BVN, you can register for bank account easily and do all that. But then to get a BVN, you need to walk into a physical branch of a commercial bank. So which
True.
means those in the rural area don't have access to that. Before they do that, they'll probably spend 1,000 or more to get to the closest town or city where there are banks.
Hmm.
So there's no way technology can solve it until we put in place a policy that says, okay, whether we're going to say the registration, you have agents that will do the registration. Just as we okay, anyway, there are um issues with that with the SIM registration, whereby you have people that are stationed to register people to register people's SIM card. But then it might be a case of making sure that we decentralize the registration for BVN so that it's not concentrated
Hmm.
in it's not put in the hand of the banks alone. So, but then you can say technology can solve that, but until you put the policy in place that empowers other guys to register people for BVN, for instance, that will work. So the other part that technology can work, and we've seen it work, is in okay beyond people that are already in the banking system, people that
Okay.
already have bank accounts. So there are apps that allow them invest their extra cash, invest in stock, even both Nigeria and stock in the US, China, and other places. And you have those that allow them invest in real estate and all that. So you have those. Technology is really doing that. But then in bringing people into the financial fold, so that's really not a job for technology. That's a job for, say, putting policies in place that will enable technology to play its role in making sure that there is an increase in access to finance.
Right, right, right. Good stuff there. Now, clearly, Intelpoint and Finance in Africa are in the private sector. Now, what
Yeah.
do you want to see the government do with the data that you've revealed in this product, in this report? Because you've gone through a lot of lengths to put this all together.
Okay. So, one thing. Okay. Let's start with this. So, in the report, it's discovered that there are more female that don't have bank and mobile money accounts than male. So, one thing
Aha.
would be yes. So, one thing would be making sure that the so and these guys are mostly so I was on the Twitter space a couple of days ago, and it was a case of yes, these guys are mostly banking with the informal sector, and those that are formal but not fully formal, you have your cooperative banks, so which is what those guys rely on,
Mm,
and that's because of the integrity of thing going to the bank, because the cooperative guys literally come to them. They don't need to go to them. Yes, there are cases whereby banks also go to the people, but then it's not as entrenched as the guys, the cooperative guys, and their associations and all that. So doing that one is making sure that there's a soft landing for female to go to enter into the banking suite, into the banking system. Um, that's that. And then there's the other part about the spread of banks. Yes, it doesn't make sense for them to go into the rural area. It doesn't make financial sense for them to go into this rural area. But then making sure that people it makes sense for them a little bit. So in 2018, yeah, 2018, 2019, the Payment Service Bank was the guideline for Payment Service Bank was released in Nigeria. One thing I said back then was that yes, these guys are coming into the party late. Number one. The number two is the fact that there's a limit on the kind of transactions they can do, which will not make financial sense for them in the long run. So doing this kind of initiatives like the Payment Service Bank, yes, it's okay, but then the government has to make sure that CBN, especially CBN, has to make sure that it makes financial sense for any company that wants to venture into it to go into the rural area, and it will make sense for them, and they'll be able to make meet at the end of the day because they have to
Right.
deliver to their shareholders.
Definitely, definitely. I mean, it's a business at the end of the day when you think about it. It's been quite an interesting one. Because of time, I'm going to ask you a two-in-one, so you need to compress your response in it. Now,
Okay.
do you think that improving access to finance is a shared responsibility between the government and the private sector, or it's a government thing specifically? And is it, looking at the reports, is it optimistic about access to finance improving in Nigeria going forward?
Okay, so is a shared responsibility, even though the government and regulators have the major role to play. But it's a shared responsibility basically. But then the government has to make sure that things are put in place, the right policies are put in place, and to make sure that it's not expensive for people to access finance. Because if the policies are in place are making it more expensive for people to access financial services, then there's really nothing that the private sector can do. But then the government making sure that yes, access to finance is not as expensive as it should be. So it's easy to access and it's not expensive. It's cheap for people to access it. That would make sense. And then that will have to make sure that you're putting policies in place to make it happen. Okay, so now on the is it optimistic? So as I
Yeah.
said, it's basically painting the same picture as what was printed in 2023. But then a lot more people, according to the report, so a lot more people are likely to enter into the banking system this year than in 2023. So optimistic, maybe a little bit, but then there still need to be, we still need to do a lot of work to make sure that we bring people into the financial fund.
Mm. A lot more work needs to be done. I mean, bear in mind that you mentioned that the change in the number of those who have access to finance in rural areas hasn't really changed much. So there's a lot of work ahead for
Definitely.
us to do. Let me wrap up with a message here on WhatsApp from Gilbert Musa. He's in First Stack, and he says, technology can impact on the average Nigerian if the banks and other associated institutions focus on their core service rather than partake in distractive activities like food fairs. No names mentioned, but
Yeah,
Gilbert,
well,
I
yeah,
I get the
I
message
get it.
completely, and I think Yinka does as well.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah.
we need to wrap up the conversation this morning. Thank you so much for joining me. I've been talking to Yinka Awosanya. He is a research lead at Intelpoint. Very good. Great having you on the show this morning.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here.
All right, fantastic. Have a
Uh,
great Friday and a great weekend as well. And
you
thank
too.
you for being a part of Business Express this Friday morning. Keep it tuned to Smooth 98.1. Going to keep you, locked in and entertained with great music. And 7:30, we'll take a look at the stories making the rounds on Freshly Pressed.